my neuron story. Okay, and an event happens. The neurotransmitter travels across the synapse. 4 different things can happen. The neurotransmitter can dissipate or float away. It can also be taken back up to the terminal button, taken back up, reuptake, and this binds the postsynaptic membrane. It can also bind to the binding site. I wanted to differentiate it right here, which is located on the receptor of the dendrite of cell B, and this binding effect takes place. There's a pore that becomes open and is permeable to sodium ions, which is at rest, which we will get into, which is right here on the oscilloscope. Okay. And sodium then wants to travel into cell B. Okay. And by way of osmosis, needed for equilibrium, the sodium is high in concentration and also in electrostatic pressure. And inside the cell has a negative change, but a positive effect. Okay? And on the oscilloscope, this attraction is shown short of depolarization. It's right here, number 1. And it is referred to as EPSP, it's down here, which stands for excitatory postsynaptic potential, which is labeled right here, number 2. Okay? More sodium in the interstitial fluid than cytoplasm. On the other hand, cytoplasm has more potassium than interstitial fluid when it is at rest, which is right here on your oscilloscope drawing. Electrostatic pressure balances the changes in this. And the cytoplasm has a negative amount of interstitial fluid when it is at negative 70, which is at rest in cell B. And the sodium can be seen right here at rest, labeled as number 1, when it's seeking the osmosis and the equilibrium stage. Okay, the EPSP is then hyper and depolarized, and after that summation ensues. Summation right here. Due to many different charges, as possibly negative 65 millivolts right here, which correlates to the threshold of excitation. Okay, the dendrite aberration moves across your cell body. Okay, and it comes together at the axon hillock. It's right here. Okay, osmosis and electrostatic pressure. And this is needed to open the voltage gates. One right here is a bigger version, but on this cell you have your potassium, sodium, and sodium potassium pump. Okay? And the sodium and equilibrium then mesh together. Potassium then arrives, taking things back below the resting site. On the scale, the sodium channel closes while the potassium opens. However, this does not mean it is at rest. The EPSP is shown on the oscilloscope going from 3 at summation all the way to equilibrium at the top at 4. Okay, and then the sodium potassium pumps are then triggered back to 70, back to rest, and this makes it a lot easier towards the end of the process. Okay, and these voltage gated, down here, the voltage gated channels, gates, connect, and they are the resting membrane potential. There's more sodium and chloride in interstitial fluid, and there's more potassium in the cytoplasm. Okay, and on the oscilloscope, this references all the way back to number 4, just having everything equal on this side of things. Then between summation and the resting stage, action potential is illustrated by the saltatory conduction. This is down here. Okay, and the first node has action potential. Different nodes have different things that having them turn to action and rest. You know, a ripple effect, like the girls demonstrated in our class. You know, the wave going up and down, and the changes seem to jump to and from the nodes of RANVA. Okay, and they're exposed on these axon spaces right here. Okay, and they occur between the covering called the myelin sheath, right here. Okay, and at the end, the vesicles interact with calcium, and this equals exocytosis. In the central nervous system, the covering is made from the oligodendrocyte, which is the glial cells, right here, the covering. The peripheral makes the Schwann cells come together. And then finally, the myelin sheath is only one voltage gated channel, and it can only open or have a charge one at a time. Okay? And with that, we get to right here, past the myelin sheath, and the calcium ions enter the signal movement of the vesicles, and they hold neurotransmitter molecules, vesicles. These vesicles move to the presynaptic membrane and empty the neurotransmitter to the synapse after merging cells B and C, and then it takes us all the way back to the start where we began. Thank you for your time. This is my neuron story.